fiction and space history, Constellation of the Week, also with Chaz. Actually, we have a Chaz stand-in this weekend. Then we'll have space launches of the week and visible satellite passages over the next couple days, Q&A round, and a 73 round if time allows. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via our electronic spreadsheet thingy. And that is, so far we have K5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi, Texas. Then we have me, Virginia, NV5F. I'm on 40 Eridani AD right now. Let's see, next we have AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, and N5BD, Bill in Irving. Now let's start with some voice check-ins. And first round will be short time check-ins. If you are driving through town or you can't be by your radio for the rest of the net but you want to get on the list, please come now for short time check-ins to Skynet. Your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard there, so let's go for general check-ins. This is also over the air on phone. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location to check into Skynet. General check-ins.
This is Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5BLT, Bill, Garland.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra. It's Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
This is November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in East Dallas.
This is Kilo, Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob in Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, Low Power.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Mesquite.
Alpha Bravo 5, Delta Mike, Dustin in Dallas.
Alpha India 5, Oscar Lima, Dan, Southwest Fort Worth.
Okay, that's a pretty good group so far. We've got W5BLT, Bill in Garland, W5GUS, Gus in Dallas, NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, KG5UFR, Jacob in Farmers Branch, WB4MFI, Ted in Dallas, N5OF, Clay in Mesquite, AB5DM, Dustin in Dallas, and AI5OL, Dan in Southwest Fort Worth. So thanks everyone for checking in. And now, let's see. Now we need to go for some Echolink check-ins. So if you are on Echolink and you would like to check in to Skynet this evening, please come now, call sign, name, and location. All right, now I took a look at Echolink, and it looks like the only people on there are people who are checked in other places. So, open check-ins. Any mode? Please come now. If you want to get on the check-in list for Skynet, it's your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, well, I'm Virginia in V5F, your Skynet net control. Looks like we're all through check-ins for a while. So, let's get started. First, we'll go for general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have announcements, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, Tony, go right ahead.
Good evening, Virginia. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion at about 10:30 or 10:35 will focus on Frankenstein, or Frankenstein, meets the space monster. This is a black and white movie from 1965. We've done this movie twice, so I've seen it at least twice, and I still keep forgetting the ending. I just rewatched the ending the last 10 minutes right before this net. Maybe I'll be able to remember it till 10:30, or maybe that should tell me something. Whether I remember the ending or not, we'll be discussing it tonight, again, 10:30, 10:35 or so. Ooh, and it is one of those fun opportunities to play Name That Vintage Aircraft, like with the Doomsday Flight last week. Okay, our 7 p.m. net this Monday will be MCOM 101. This net is open to any amateur interested in public service communications. You don't need to be a member of Aries or RACES to participate. Again, 7 p.m. this Monday, right here. And finally, I feel bad because I forgot to read this announcement during TechNet. A quick public service note. An educational event in downtown Dallas, the aptly named Dallas Bike Ride, is looking for more amateur radio communicators. This will take place the morning of Saturday, May 16th, 1 week from today. To sign up, you have a choice. You can go to wa5wrl.org and scroll down. Unfortunately, it was posted kind of early. wa5wrl.org and scroll down, or you can go to K5 Yankee Romeo, k5yr.com/DBR. The initials, of course, stand for Dallas Bike Ride. We could really use one or more people, so I'm going to be announcing that every net I attend to for the next week, unless we get those two more people. NT 5 p.m. back to net.
Okay, thank you, Tony, for all those great announcements as usual. All right, next we have a few general announcements from the net. First, the AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT net, learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use and new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and get registered for Echolink. You can find the net under Groups and *AMSAT*. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. There's also 2 local nets for AMSAT. and they're available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as any others who are checked in. ANSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL tone, wind 10.9. Tuesdays, Tom N5HYP is the usual net control, and all are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so there's no ANSAT East net that night. The next one is Dallas ANSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL tone 110.9, positive offset. And there are tons of other wonderful nets on this repeater. Every Monday night we have some kind of a net. As Tony just said, this coming Monday is INCOM 101. Every other Monday we have the Ham Fixins cooking net. And then the fourth Monday is Geek Net, which is really funny, geeky stuff. I love that net. If we have a fifth week, that's always a surprise net. And of course, tonight is the night of nets, and we always have TechNet at 7 and Skynet at 9, and we have Afterglow movie at 10:30 for all those people who love movies and want to sit up late talking about them. We also have daily traffic nets on this repeater every evening at 6:30. All right. Now it's time, speaking of the Afterglow, it's time for tonight's Afterglow movie info with Tom, KE5ICX, your very accurate synopsis of this evening's movie.
Well, thank you, Virginia. This is KE5ICX. I'm Tom down in Corpus Christi. Listen up, everyone. No one would have believed in the last years of the 20th century that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than man and yet as mortal as his own. That as man busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. But luckily for man, it was the fact that Martians, after suffering a collective fall resulting in a concussion, had transformed them from the smartest aliens in the solar system to the dumbest. They boarded their spacecraft and headed to Earth, ready to start their dumbfounded invasion wearing fashion don'ts no invasionary force would ever be caught wearing, while moronically fumbling their way through an invasion plan dubiously written on the back of a used cocktail napkin. Join us for an old H.G. Wells story gloriously redone as Frankenstein in a questionable motion picture tonight that, yes, we've seen twice before, but somebody whose name and call sign will not be named has asked for it for a third time. So we'll be discussing it tonight at 10:30 p.m. Frankenstein meets the space monster. Oh boy, join us there. Back to you. Oh, by the way, you can go to the Skynet notes at W5FC.org and find the hot link in case you actually want to see this thing. The main doctor, and it's kind of cool, he's been at 9,000 things. This didn't kill his career, though it should have. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Okay, this is Virginia, NV5F. Thank you, Tom. And, you know, this movie's pretty short, so if you started it right now, you probably get through it at exactly when we start the Afterglow net at about 10:35. So, go get cracking. Okay, let's see. You can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, W5FC.org. We currently have the following people tuned in online. Let's see if anybody else has joined us there. Oh, it's kind of slow tonight. Well, okay, maybe there's a sporting event on or something. I don't know. No new check-ins there. Do we have any additional check-ins over Over RF for the Skynet, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, I guess everybody heard Chaz wasn't going to be on tonight, and they decided not to check in. Speaking of Chaz, it looks like he's out this week for Texas Star Party, and I think it looks like Bill in 5BB has volunteered to read the Texas Astronomical Society events. So take it away, Bill.
Thank you, Virginia. This is N5BB, and I have been commandeered into playing Chaz this evening. I don't have a Bob the Cat fill-in, so you're going to have to just not imagine that I've got a cat here that's helping me as my sidekick. Okay, this is N5BB. And tonight on Skynet, we're talking about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. On May the 22nd of this year, we have the next Texas Astronomical Society meeting. It'll be at 7:30 p.m. in person at UT Dallas, and also on Zoom. We don't know at this time what the featured speaker will be. I just looked at the website, and I don't see it listed. We don't know what the topic will be. The Texas Astronomical Society hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in the area. Skynet was picked on Saturday night, so there will be the opportunity for live reports from the test observing sessions. So tonight, the stargazing party should be held in Frisco. Do we have a ham radio operator at the stargazing party this evening that would like to be a report? Nothing heard. You can find out more at the Texas Astronomical Society website, www.texasastro.org, for up-to-date information. Except you can't find anything about the session. This evening, or the next meeting. Okay, slide number 2. What would you call a week-long gathering of hundreds of amateur and professional astronomers from all over the world and one of the darkest night skies in North America? Well, the Texas Star Party, of course. This annual event has been going on for decades, since 1978 near Fort Davis, Texas. Chaz has attended about half of the annual gatherings since 2006. You can expect observing under dark skies at night, sleep in the mornings, professional and amateur presentations in the afternoon, private behind-the-scenes tours of McDonald Observatory, horseback riding if you wish, and there's even a ham radio shack that us ham radio operators can use. This year, the Texas Star Party runs from Sunday, May 10th, that's tomorrow, through Saturday, May 17th. More information and details can be found at texasstarparty.org. That's texasstarparty.org. Chaz will probably be missing from Skynet. Also, next Saturday, May the 16th, due to the Texas Star Party. Bill in 5BB is impersonating Chaz, and I'm going to cover his segments at least tonight and probably next Saturday also. That's all I've got, but next coming up is National Space Society. Back to Virginia. This is N5BB.
N5BB and V5F. Thank you, Bill. And, yeah, the Texas Star Party was awesome. I might have to do a Messier Marathon next year and go to the Texas Star Party. And, yeah, Bill, you're next. National Space Society events and activities. So, as you were.
Well, thank you, Virginia. This is N5BB back again. I happen to be the National Space Society North Texas Chapter Vice President and the Membership Director. You can reach me via email at space@byram.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving. This is at the intersection of 183 and Beltline across the highway from Irving Mall. Our next chapter meeting will be tomorrow, Sunday, May the 10th. The topic will be the future of NASA and commercial space. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. You do not need to be a member of any organization to attend. 7 people attended the April event. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday, May the 29th. The big National Space Society event each year is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. ISDC 2026 will be held in McLean, Virginia, which is not far from Washington, D.C. The dates are June 4th to 7th of this year, and I spoke in detail about various speakers and what was going to be going on at the Skynet last week. You can find out more about the International Space Development Conference at isdc.nss.org. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, November 5 Bravo Bravo, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. This is N5BB, end of segment. Back to Virginia.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate all the NSS news. And now it's time for a discussion topic of the week, and that's my cue. We're going to call this one the Big Project Hail Mary Quarterly Wrap-Up. This is the third month in a row I've taken this movie as a basis for my subject. And I did consider doing a part 3 of the Special Relativity series that I did the last 2 months, but that almost made my head explode preparing those. So instead, I want to just celebrate the spring and the general good times of warmer weather and fun astronomy stuff with a relaxed summary of some space topics that are actually related to Project Hail Mary, which has been in theaters for nearly 2 months now and is due to drop on streaming services May the 12th. Despite the advent of the streaming version, I still strongly recommend seeing it at the theater. Your TV will never do it justice. I did see it a second time on the 70mm IMAX about 3 weeks ago, and I hope it becomes a perennial event and a favorite on the giant format over the coming years. Anyway, this evening I'm going to share 3 little stories that tie into space and science stuff from Project Hail Mary, and I hope you'll enjoy these along with getting more interested in good science fiction and movies in general. So, here we go. First stories, and these all came from space.com. They've got a lot of pretty good little stories that involve this film. Project Hail Mary end credits showcase stunning nebula photos captured over 400 hours by a single astrophotographer. And here is the inside story. And this story is by Anthony Wood, and like I said, it is from space.com. And the kind of slug line or log line for it is, in August 2025, astrophotographer Rod Preziers received a strange Instagram message that seemed a little too good to be true. A small production company wanted to license his images for use in an undisclosed sci-fi movie. Preziers initially and reasonably assumed that he was being scammed. After all, how many production companies and movie studios approach collaborators by sliding into their DMs and asking for space pictures? Several months and a binding non-disclosure agreement later, his images would appear on the silver screen as a magnificent backdrop for the credits of Project Hail Mary, the Ryan Gosling-fronted adaptation of Andy Weir's beloved novel of the same name. Project Hail Mary launched to both critical acclaim and impressive box office earnings earlier in March. More impressively, it managed to maintain a sense of charm and wonder at the cosmos throughout its 156-minute runtime. They compelled us here at Space.com to praise it as the optimistic look towards the stars and that humanity needs right now. The film also drew heavily from real-world biology, space exploration, and science, which grounded the blockbuster's fantastic story in reality and an air of authenticity. Preziers' astrophotography and the drive to showcase real deep space images over versus CGI as the credits rolled, added to that sense of authenticity. So, the first thing I thought is, it's a scam, Preziers told Space.com in an interview. The second thing I thought was that maybe it was for a local film or something tied to a local festival, since he mentioned the company name. I went online to look up both him and the company to check that it was genuine. Preziers went on to create what he jokingly called a dossier on the company to determine if they were genuine. Next followed a series of conference calls accompanied by the signing of an NDA. For months, Preziers and the production company discussed using his images for a sequence earlier in the movie, but as the producer's creative vision shifted, things began to look uncertain. They got back to me and said, it may not be going ahead, we called Preziers, but there may be a place to work with some of these materials for something else. Weeks later, the production company broached the possibility of using Preziers' deep space imagery to close out the blockbuster movie. The chain of events is all the more noteworthy given the relatively brief time that Preziers has been capturing the night sky. His first experience of deep sky astrophotography came in July 2023 when he captured a view of the Omega Nebula, Messier 17, which glows in the constellation Sagittarius, 5,500 light-years from Earth, according to NASA. The years that followed saw Preziers embark on a personal journey to research and learn the craft, which saw him attend multiple workshops with veteran astrophotographers. One of Preziers' nebula shots was even shortlisted for the Best Newcomer Award in the Royal Observatory, Greenwich, 2024 Astrophotographer of the Year competition 8 months into his astro training. Of course, working with Amazon MGM Studios to help illustrate a major blockbuster was an entirely different level from anything that had come before, and all because his photography had drawn the eyes of a production company searching Google Images for views of the Milky Way. Never in a million years would I have expected that to happen, even if I had 10 years experience, 20 years experience, let alone 2.5. The images selected for the credit sequence took a cumulative 396 hours to capture using 2 telescopes, a William Optics RedCat 51-2 and an ASCAR 130 PH2 in conjunction with a host of specialized ZWO astronomy cameras, filters, and peripherals. The images include some of the most famous nebulas in the night sky, such as the Carina Nebula, the Fighting Dragons of Era, and the distinctive Vela supernova remnant, each of which was painstakingly edited to bring out spectacular detail in the deep space vistas. Man, I hope Chaz is watching this on YouTube right now. And my comment on this is I have seen the movie several times, and the astrophotography at the end is stunning. And I like that the movie itself, in the body of the actual film, shows space with the Milky Way often in the background. And I've noticed that a lot of even really good space movies neglect to show what the backdrop would actually look like if you were in space. And a lot of times, there would be a really good view of the Milky Way out there. Okay, next story. This one's fun. A Lego Project Hail Mary set just soared into the stratosphere, breaking the Guinness World Record for highest flight. And the log line on this is, amaze, amaze, amaze. A Lego version of the Project Hail Mary spaceship soared into the stratosphere and set an altitude record. A Project Hail Mary kit, wait, hold on. This is by Elizabeth Howell, also space.com. Okay, so here we go. A Project Hail Mary Lego spaceship set a new world record for highest altitude launch and retrieval of a Lego kit. The Lego brick build, based on the hit Hollywood film, flew to an altitude of 114,790 feet, or 34,988 meters, on March 20th aboard a stratospheric balloon launched in Gwynedd County, UK. The launch was done to market the movie, which is based on a best-selling 2021 Andy Weir novel. I actually saw a video of this. You can go online and find a video of the Project Hail Mary Lego stratospheric Lego launch, because they have a camera that was filming it the whole time. On board, naturally, were many figures of astronauts Ryland Grace and Rocky the Alien, presumably fisting their bumps in celebration. Sony Pictures Releasing UK, which distributed the film in the region, partnered with Scent in Space, which is a company that helps others do stratospheric advertisements. But the flight didn't make it to space, as the widely recognized Kármán line demarking space is 3 times higher than the flight's altitude of 62 miles, or at 62 miles, or 100 kilometers. So it only got about a third of the way to space, but still pretty amazing. Every one of our projects is an exciting undertaking, but getting the chance to incorporate a Lego build into the spacecraft development process made this one a whole heap of fun for the entire Sent into Space team, said Chris Rose, the company's head of projects. Co-film directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller received an official Guinness World Record certificate in Las Vegas on April 13th, while Guinness released the news Tuesday, April 21st. The movie version of Project Hail Mary released in theaters a month ago on March 20th, and by mid-month, April, it reached $500 million in international box office sales, according to Variety, just behind the top grossing film of the year, which is currently the Super Mario Galaxy movie. At that time, it was at $629 million. I think it's more at like $750 now. And Project Hail Mary actually passed $640 million sometime earlier this week, so it's doing pretty good. Let's see. The film is all ages, but the Lego set is marketed to the 18-plus crowd. There are 830 pieces, including the ship, a simulated centrifugal gravity system for launch, the Grace and Rocky minifigures, and a display stand. With Ryan Gosling starring as Grace, the film portrays schoolteacher Ryland Grace, and his extraterrestrial alien buddy Rocky, who is voiced by James Ortiz, on a mysterious mission to save their respective worlds. The film, which received help from NASA during the development, got a publicity boost from the agency during the Artemis II mission in early April. The moon astronauts viewed the film privately in quarantine last month, and the famous "Amaze, Amaze, Amaze" line from the movie was one of the phrases uttered during the mission communications. So, and I have that Lego set, and I built it a couple weeks ago, and it was a lot of fun to build. It's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat Lego set. And this is Virginia in V5F, and I am your net control for Skynet. And for the third little article in my presentation of Project Hail Mary, the Project Hail Mary wrap-up, we finished the last one talking about Artemis II, and this one is called "The Artemis II Astronauts Got a Private Project Hail Mary Screening Before Launch, and Here's Their Verdict." This was by Jeff Spry, also of Space.com. NASA's Orion spacecraft and Artemis II crew just completed their awe-inspiring loop around the moon on Monday, April 6th, as the world watched this historic, record-breaking endeavor. Now, Reed Wiseman, Christina Koch, Victor Glover, and Jeremy Hansen are heading home to Mother Earth, where they'll end their space adventure by splashing down safely in the Pacific Ocean on Friday, April 10th. This article is obviously written about a month ago, but I just thought it would be a fun one to end on. But let's rewind before their initial April 1st lift to the 4 astronauts Kennedy Space Center quarantine period in Houston, where they were treated to a viewing of Amazon MGM Studios' Project Hail Mary to bolster their spirits ahead of their monumental 10-day lunar voyage. We were all very lucky, Hansen shared during a live interview on Sunday. We got to watch Hail Mary when we were in quarantine. That was a real treat that they sent us a link to view at home with our families, getting us ready to go on our own space adventure. In the blockbuster sci-fi adventure directed by Chris Miller and Phil Lord, and adapted from Andy Weir's 2021 novel, Ryan Gosling portrays Ryland Grace, a middle school teacher and molecular biologist who reluctantly ventures into deep space to unravel a cosmic mystery and hopefully save Earth from sun-eating alien microbes. The movie's message of friendship, cooperation, sacrifice, and hope deeply resonated with the Artemis II team as a refreshing tonic before the big moon launch. I would just say to Ryan, art imitates science and vice versa, it seems. He added during the Canadian Space Agency's Q&A press chat. He did a great job in that movie. It's wonderful to see people really leaning into those roles. I thought it was just such an inspirational example, and somebody who goes out of there and just gets what was done to save humanity. It's a pretty extraordinary example that we can all follow. We all thought that movie was really uplifting and inspiring. Marking the occasion and providing encouraging words to the 3 American astronauts and 1 Canadian astronaut, Ryan Gosling recorded a brief encouraging video for the moon-bound foursome. The Artemis II astronauts are going to space for real, and they will travel further from Earth than any humans in history, the Canadian actor stated. sending all our best wishes to the Artemis II crew. Here's my note. A few days later, Rocky also sent the Artemis II crew a word of great encouragement right before they made their lunar flyby. The short video of the little rock alien was all over social media and was inspiring as well as brilliant advertising by Amazon and GM. And continuing with the article, Project Hail Mary is still available to watch in theaters, and you can also check out the book that it's based on, written by the Martian author Andy Weir. All right, and that's the third one. So thanks for listening this evening, and I'd also like to wish everybody, speaking of movies, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Short Circuit Day. 40 years ago today, my favorite movie of all time, Short Circuit, was released in theaters, May 9th, 1986. All right, does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation before we continue? Please come now with your call sign. Okay, well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. I wanted to just go with something a little more lighthearted and easy this time. Do we have any more check-ins before I continue for Skynet? Call sign, name, and location.
November 5, Mike Tango Victor, Chad and Garland.
Okay, and I recognize N5MTV, Tad, and Garland. Thank you so much for joining us on Skynet. And let me check the online check-in thingy. And pretty slow tonight. Okay, no new call signs there. All right, and now it is time for What's Up, normally with Chaz, but tonight we have Bill, N5BB, standing in for Chaz to tell us what to look for in the daytime and nighttime sky. Take it away, Bill.
Thank you, Virginia. This is N5BD, and this is the Was Up section. Slide number 3. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up because it's about what has gone on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide number 4. Chaz has talked about the predicted nova of the star TCRB, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of about 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your naked eyes. TCRB was supposed to go nova more than a year and a half ago. One recent prediction was for TCRB to go nova on November the 10th, 2025. That did not happen. So another prediction is on June the 25th, 2026, plus or minus a few days. But when it does go nova, TCRB could become as bright as the North Star, which is second magnitude. Chaz can see the North Star with just his eyes from his very light-polluted location in the Mesquite. And I bet nearly all of the rest of you can also. Slide number 5. This image of the sun was taken on May the 7th, 2026, from the website spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun has just passed its 11-year. The sun passed its 11-year solar maximum around October of 2024. Chaz presented information on the solar cycle about 4 months ago on Skynet. Slide number 6. The third quarter moon is on today, May the 9th. The new moon date is May the 16th. On May the 17th, the moon will be at perigee, which is a point in the moon's orbit where it's closest to the Earth, at a distance of 358 and kilometers. The first quarter moon is on May 23rd. Full moon will be on May the 31st. On May the 31st, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,366 kilometers. Slide number 7. On May the 13th of this year, there's a conjunction of our moon, the Saturn, Neptune, Pallas, and Vesta in the eastern morning sky. Slide number 8. Also on May the 13th of this year, there's a conjunction of Venus and M1, the Crab Nebula, and the northwestern evening sky. Slide number 9. The following night, on May the 14th, there'll be a conjunction of the Moon, Saturn, and Mars in the eastern morning sky. Slide number 10. 4 days later, on May the 18th, there will be a conjunction of the Moon and Venus in the northwestern evening sky. And slide number 11. 2 days later, on May the 20th, there will be a conjunction of the Moon, Jupiter, and Pollux, a star, in the western evening sky. This is N5BD, this is Skynet, and this is What's Up. Slide number 12. Does anybody have any questions that need to fill or any of the information or general astronomy question? If so, please come down with your call sign. Well, that's good because I probably couldn't answer it. Slide number 13. So as the moon waves, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next time, keep looking up. I'll be talking a little bit later in this net with another segment. This is N5BD, back in net control.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill. We appreciate you being Chaz this week. And next we have space exploration and space history from Gus, W5GUS. So, Gus, go right ahead with the space exploration and history.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. W5GUS here with, we'll start with some space exploration news. A team of international scientists discovered the coldest exoplanet ever observed, orbiting a white dwarf star. The planet's temperature is estimated to be near absolute zero, providing a unique laboratory for studying planetary survival after a star's death. This discovery challenges current models of planetary system evolution. Okay, May the 3rd, astronomers using the James Webb Space Telescope confirmed the presence of water vapor in the atmosphere of a distant sub-Neptune exoplanet. This finding provides new insights into the chemical composition and formation of common planet types. The study also hinted at the possibility of a liquid ocean beneath the clouds of that exoplanet. Okay, in big news, May the 5th, residents around the SpaceX launch facility in South Texas there voted to officially incorporate the area as the City of Starbase. The move is expected to streamline local infrastructure development and governance for the growing spaceport community. Elon Musk was reported to be present for the inaugural City Council meeting. Okay, on May 6th, this past week, the Federal Aviation Administration granted SpaceX the launch license for the 9th integrated flight test of Starship. This flight aims to demonstrate a precise landing of the Super Heavy booster back at the launch site. Preparations at Starbase have reached the final countdown phase. All right, next day, May the 7th, 2026, NASA officially accepted delivery of the Orion spacecraft slated for the upcoming Artemis missions. This handover marks a critical milestone in the transition from manufacturing to launch integration. Engineers are now beginning the final checkouts for the deep space vehicle. And the very next day, the Department of Defense released a fresh cache of approximately 30 videos and numerous documents related to unidentified anomalous phenomena, what used to be called UFOs. This release is part of a broader transparency initiative aimed at cataloging and analyzing unexplained aerial encounters reported by military personnel. Okay, let's go to space-related birthdays. May the 3rd, 1949, Albert Sacco, Jr., a chemical engineer who conducted material science experiments on the Space Shuttle Columbia. He focused on zeolite crystal growth to improve industrial applications on Earth. Also on May the 3rd, but 40 years later, 1983, well, not quite 40 years, okay, 1983, Laurel O'Hara was born. She was on Expedition 70, served as a flight engineer on the International Space Station after launching on Soyuz 24. She performed numerous scientific experiments and maintenance tasks during her 200-day stay. Okay, May the 5th, 1930, Michael Adams was born. He was an X-15 American aviator who reached an altitude of over 50 miles in the X-15 rocket plane. He was posthumously awarded astronaut wings after his tragic final flight in 1967. Okay, May the 5th, 1960, Douglas Wheelock was born. He logged more than 178 days in space and conducted 6 spacewalks during his career. He served as a commander of the International Space Station during Expedition 25. On May 6, 1949, David Leistman was born. He was a veteran of 3 shuttle missions who performed a historic spacewalk to demonstrate satellite refueling. He later served in several high-level management positions at NASA. Also on May 6, but in 3 years later, 1952, Chiaki Mukai was born. She was the first Japanese woman in space. She's a cardiovascular surgeon by training. She conducted life science and microgravity research during her 2 shuttle missions. Also May 6, a pretty popular birthday and his subject, Donald Thomas was born. He was an engineer who spent 44 days in space across 4 different shuttle flights. He was a mission specialist primarily involved in microgravity science experiments. And again, May 6th, 1966, Alexander Skvortsov was born, a Russian cosmonaut who commanded the International Space Station during 2 of his 3 long-duration missions. He spent a total of 545 days in space across his career. Okay, next day, May 7th, but in 1959, Tamara Jernigan was born, a planetary scientist who flew on 5 shuttle missions and performed an 8-hour spacewalk. She contributed significantly to the assembly of the International Space Station. On May 8th, Charles Camarda was born, 1952, May 8th. Flew on the historic return to flight mission following that was the next mission after the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. He served as a mission specialist and focused on thermal protection system repairs. It's good to have someone like that on board that return to flight mission. Okay, next day, May 9th, but 1931, Vance Brand was born. He served as a command module pilot for the first international docking mission between the U.S. and USSR. He later commanded 3 space shuttle missions, including the first operational flight of the space shuttle. Okay, we'll move to space history this week, past week in space history. The Magellan, in May 4th, 1989, Magellan spacecraft was launched from the space shuttle Atlantis on mission STS-30 to map the surface of Venus. Using synthetic aperture radar, it provided the first high-resolution images of the planet's cloud-covered surface. The probe revealed a world dominated by volcanic activity, lava plains, and unique tectonic features. Magellan's data transformed our understanding of Venusian geology and atmospheric dynamics. The mission concluded in 1994 when the spacecraft was intentionally plunged into the Venusian atmosphere and I guess into Venus. Okay, May the 5th, 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American to travel into space aboard the Mercury Redstone 3 mission. The suborbital flight lasted 15 minutes, 22 seconds, reaching an altitude of 116 miles. This historic achievement proved that humans could survive and function in the space environment. Shepard's success was a pivotal moment in the space race, boosting national morale and setting the stage for the moon landings. His capsule, Freedom 7, was successfully recovered in the Atlantic Ocean after splashdown. Okay, the first woman in space, Valentina Tereshkova, had the first woman in space in May 1963, and while her flight occurred in June, Valentina Tereshkova was the first intensive phase the final intensive phase of her training during May '63. She was selected from over 400 applicants to become the first female cosmonaut. Her training included centrifuge tests, isolation tests, and parachute jumps to prepare for the rigorous mission. Tereshkova's eventual flight would orbit the Earth 48 times over 3 days. It's about 16 times a day. This milestone remains a significant achievement for women in aerospace and international space exploration history. All right, May the 7th, 1992, Space Shuttle Endeavour embarked on its maiden voyage, STS-49, to rescue the stranded Intelsat 6 satellite. This mission featured the first and only three-person spacewalk in history to manually capture the satellite. Endeavour was built as a replacement for the Challenger orbiter and incorporated numerous safety and technical improvements. The mission successfully reboosted the satellite into its correct orbit before the shuttle returned to Earth. Endeavour went on to fly 25 missions, contributing extensively to the International Space Station. All right, and the last item for this week, in early May 1969, the Apollo 10 Saturn V rocket was undergoing final preparations on the launch pad for its dress rehearsal of the moon landing. This mission was the Snoopy and Charlie Brown flight that took the lunar module within 47,000 feet of the lunar surface. The crew tested all procedures and hardware required for landing without actually touching down. This successful mission provided the final verification needed for Apollo 11's mission landing 2 months later. It also set the record for the fastest speed ever attained by a manned vehicle. And with that, we will pass things back to Net Control, Virginia, and wait for Bill and Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Back to you, Virginia, W5GUS.
Okay, thank you, Gus. Appreciate all that space history. That was a lot this time. And you mentioned Doug Wheelock in the birthdays, and I actually got to meet him at Hamvention a few years ago. He was a very active ham on the International Space Station a while back, quite a few years ago. And he was very nice. Okay, next we do have Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Standing in for Chaz, again, we will have Bill N5BB. So, Bill from NB5F, go right ahead.
Thank you very much, Virginia. This is N5BB. Well, the date is wrong on this, but the content, I guess, is correct. It shows it's for last week, so I hope he inserted the right one in here, because I've totally forgotten what the constellation was last week. Anyway, this is in C, and I'm reading Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Slide 14. Oh, and by the way, there's jokes involved, so get ready with your funny bone. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of a silent key, Carolyn Womack, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there's about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellations of the Week this week is Ursa Major, the Big Bear, and Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. The Big Dipper is easy to find almost directly overhead, well, a little to the north side, in the early evening sky. And if you've been wondering why we have had so much rain, it is because the Big Dipper is upside down, and all the water is falling on top of us. Wouldn't Chaz make a great meteorologist? No. The Big Dipper is just part of the Big Bear. And right now that bear is also upside down. Slide number 15, get ready with your groans. That's right, we have the jokes of the week. What do you call bears with no ears? It's better if you write this one out. What do you call bears with no ears? B. Oh, that's a big groan. What color socks do bears wear? They don't wear socks. They have bare feet. Why didn't the teddy bear eat his lunch? Because he was stuffed. What type of car do bears drive? What brand of car do bears drive? Ferraris. Why do grizzlies never look sad? Because whenever there's a problem, they just grin and bear it. What do you call a bear with no money? Baroque. And last, the last joke. What do you call a bear with no teeth? A gummy bear. You see, the slides are, the jokes are no better even when somebody else is reading them. Slide number 16, please. This is N5BB and this is Skynet. The name Ursa Major is Latin for the Great Bear or Big Bear. Ursa Major is better known by the famous asterism that it contains, the Big Dipper. Mizar and Alcar are a famous optical double star. We say that they are an optical double because we do not know if they are orbiting around each other, which would make them a true binary system. Even if they are not a true binary, they're associated with each other because they share the same proper motion, as they are both members of the Ursa Major Stellar Association. Oh, that's a weird named group. Maybe that'd be a good musical group. The Ursa Major Stellar Association. The name Mizar, that's M-I-Z-A-R, has ambiguous origins. It could possibly be a corruption of the name Marak, M-I-R-A-K, which is the name of Beta Ursae Majoris, the bottom star at the end of the Dipper's bowl, one of the two pointer stars that points to Polaris. The name Alcor, that's A-L-C-O-R, is a corruption of the Arabic phrase for the rider, because it appears to be riding on Mizar. A number of different cultures of the past referred to Mizar and Alcor as a horse and rider. Ancient Arabs also used Mizar and Alcor as a test of visual acuity. If someone could see both cars, they were considered to have good eyesight. It just so happens that Mizar and Alcor, that's Alcor, were featured as the binocular highlight in the June 2020 issue of Sky and Telescope. This article states that Mizar and Alcor are not simply stars, but are two stellar systems. Alcor is actually a double star, and Mizar is at least a quadruple star system. The brightest companion to MISAR is easily visible in small telescopes and in large tripod-mounted binoculars. It has a 14 arc-second separation from MISAR. Slide 17, please. This is Skynet, and this is N5BB. M81 is a beautiful spiral galaxy. It and its nearby bright companion M82 can be seen in 50-millimeter binoculars. M81 and M82 appear as just faint fuzzballs in handheld binoculars, but they are at least visible, making them both candidates for the Binocular Messier Club. M81 shows up much better in a telescope, as you would expect. It shows as a fuzzy oval shape with a brighter center, which is the galaxy's nucleus. The area of the spiral arms is dimmer than the nucleus, but in an 8 to 10-inch telescope, you cannot quite make out the actual spiral arms. Chaz has seen them in a 16-inch telescope. M82 is an unusual galaxy that is near M81. The two galaxies are associated with each other and are in fact the brightest members of what is known as the M81 galaxy group, which is the second closest galaxy cluster to our own local group. Only the Sculptor group is closer. M82, again, is an unusual galaxy, and it's earned it a place in Halton Arp's catalog of peculiar galaxies. Isn't that an interesting document? Halton Arp's catalog of peculiar galaxies. It is unusual enough that Arp lumped it and a small handful of other galaxies into the miscellaneous category of his catalog, a class of galaxies he dubbed as unique. In a small telescope, it is easy to differentiate M82 from M81 because of M82's edge-on appearance. This edge appearance has caused M82 to be nicknamed the Cigar Galaxy. Both M81 and M82 are known as Bode's Nebula because they were discovered by Johann Bode, or Bode maybe, B-O-D-E, Bode, in 1774. Slide number 18. M97 is the Owl Nebula, a planetary nebula, discovered by Machain in 1781 and added by Messier to his catalog that same year. It was given the name Owl Nebula, that's O-W-L, by Lord Rosse in 1848 after viewing it through his 72-inch reflector. It is very small and dim in smaller scopes, but it is definitely noticeable and non-stellar in nature, unlike many planetary nebulae. M97 and M108 are so close together that both were visible in the same low-power field of view in some telescopes. Medium to large apertures are needed to see the owl's eyes. There are other Messier objects in Ursa Major, which include the M40, M109, M101, and M108. It is worth your while to look at these objects as well. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet, sponsored by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Slide number 19, please. Ursa Minor is Latin for Little Bear. It also forms the well-known asterism of the Little Dipper. The four stars forming the bowl of Little Dipper are interesting in that they are of second, third, fourth, and fifth magnitudes, providing an easy guide to determining what magnitude stars are visible on a given night. Polaris Alpha Ursae Minoris, it is part of the engagement ring asterism. Polaris is also known as the North Star or the Pole Star. It is not the brightest star in the sky. In fact, it's the 49th brightest star. In earlier times, it was called Stella Polaris, but this name fell out of common usage a long time ago. Polaris is one of the most famous stars in the sky because of its location near the North Celestial Pole. The star is not located precisely at the true pole, however, but is a little less than 1 degree distant. During the next century or so, this will diminish, and the star will be closest to the North Celestial Pole in the year 2102 AD. At that time, it'll be 27.5 arc minutes from the pole. Polaris is a second magnitude yellow-white star, a spectral type F7, and it is 430 light years from our solar system. It's also an easy double star for the small telescope. Polaris is actually a triple star system, and the Hubble Space Telescope has successfully imaged the faint third member of the system. Polaris is part of a nice asterism called the Diamond Ring or the Engagement Ring, which is easily visible in binoculars or a finder scope. Kakab, that's Beta Ursae Minoris, Kakab, is derived from an Arabic term, which means the Star of the North. This name derives from the fact that 3,000 years ago, Kakab was the closest bright star to the true pole. Kakab is the second magnitude orange star, a spectral type K4-3, and is believed to be about 100 light years away. It appears yellow-white in the DX8, whatever that is. Slide number 20. NGC 217 is a magnitude 11.2 galaxy located near the bowl of the Little Dipper. It is a barred spiral galaxy. Walter Scott Houston noted that it should be visible in any telescope 8 inches or larger. But on good nights, he's been able to see it with a 4-inch scope. Being so close to the pole, it's visible throughout the year, and Houston knows that it provides a good test of sky transparency. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Slide 21. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Ursa Major, the Big Bear, and Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. I've just given you a sampling of some of these objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, you can then earn an observing certificate and pen in about a year. Slide 22. And that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week. Ursa Major, the Big Bear, and Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. Chaz wants to thank his friends, Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell, for their research and words on the deep sky objects that Chaz has used, borrowed and stolen for every Skynet. Chaz also uses at times the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next week, we'll take a look at Coma berenices hair, and Canes venatsi, the hunting dogs. This is N5BD saying good night, 73. We're turning the net back to Virginia, net control. This is N5BD. Go ahead, Virginia.
All righty, thank you, Bill. Appreciate you reading the Constellation of the Week this week. And now to finish up, we'll go to Tom, K5ICX, with any space launches for this week, and you can go right ahead with the satellite passages as well, Tom, in D5F.
Thank you, Virginia. This is KE5ICX. There's a bunch of stuff going on for both these segments. I'm going to have to kind of abbreviate. Let's see, May 11th, we have a Falcon 9 launch. This is the NROL 172. This is from Vandenberg. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch the NROL 172 mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. Flight will be the 12th mission supporting the agency's proliferated architecture. A constellation believed to consist of star shield satellites, very ominous. At 8.5 minutes following liftoff, first stage booster, launching for the second time, will target a landing on the drone, Of Course I Still Love You, positioned in the Pacific Ocean. May 12th, Falcon 9 will launch a CRS-34 from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch NASA's SpaceX CRS-34 mission, part of the agency's Commercial Resupply Services program. Dragon spacecraft, tail number C209, flying in for the sixth time, will deliver thousands of pounds of science and supplies to the International Space Station. The vehicle will arrive at the orbiting outpost after a roughly 38-hour transit, docking on May 14th at about 9:50 a.m. Let's see, let me skip down to some of the more interesting ones. May 17th, Falcon 9 will launch Globalstar 2R, Launch 1. This is also from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This rocket will launch 9 of its HIB-LEO 4 satellites into low Earth orbit. This is the first of 2 launches that constitute replenishment of the HIB-LEO 4 fleet. After 8.5 minutes after liftoff, first stage B-1090, launching for the 12th time, will target a landing in the Atlantic Ocean. And we have coming up, let's see, Atlas 5 launch on May 22nd. This is Leo Atlas 07. This also from SLC-41 in Florida. United States Launch Alliance Atlas 5 rocket will launch batch 29 Amazon Leo satellites into low Earth orbit. Okay, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, couple of weeks. We have heavensabove.com website where you can find this information for the flyovers. We highlight ISS and Tiangong Space Station. So I'll give you what's up for the visible satellite passes for ISS. We have 2 coming up. Let's see. We got one coming up May 9th that's quite good. Minus 3.8 magnitude. That's at 20:48 in the evening out of the southwest. Reach its highest point at 84 degrees, almost overhead at 20:52. It will follow the northeast at 20:55. The next one is a pass on May 10th. Minus 3.2 magnitude. That's at 5:02 in the morning, 38 degrees. Reach its highest point at 5:02, so it'd be at its highest arc point, and it will fall to the south-southeast at 5:04. May 11th, minus 1.4 magnitude. That's at 20:50 in the evening out of the west. Reach its highest point at 27 degrees at 20:53, and it'll fall to the north-northeast at 20:56. Tiangong has several passes, not bad. We will go with the really good ones. We have, let's see, 0.5. I'm looking for the best ones. Here's a bunch of them coming up. Let's see. The best one, May 16th, minus 2.1 magnitude. That's at 5:23 in the evening out of the west-northwest. It will be at reach its highest point at 54 degrees at 5:26 in the morning. It will fall to the southeast at 5:29. It's a minus 0.3 magnitude at 4:25 a.m. out of the east-southeast reach its highest point at 425, and it'll fall to the east-southeast at 426. Then finally, I'll give you May 18th. That's a minus 1.8 magnitude. That's at 2124 in the evening out of the southwest. Reach its highest point at 40 degrees, 2127, and it will fall to the east at 2129. And that's it. All of that information is available over at heavensabove.com. Just plug in your longitude and latitude or your nearest city. That includes everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it will customize all of the sightings just for you. Mine is for Louisville. That's it, Virginia. Back to you. This is KE5, ICX.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom. Appreciate it. And before we shut down the net, are there any more final check-ins who want to get on the list for Skynet? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Normal state.
Okay, nothing heard. Well, we had about 14 hams participating in Skynet this evening. Quite a bit lower than usual. I don't know what's going on, but they don't know what they're missing. All right. Well, we hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for participating. And we hope you will join us next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net controls, so if you're interested in doing that, just email nets@w5fc.org. And if you want to follow topics, just go to the w5fc.org website. At the top, there will be the sky.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
And I am now closing
Afterglow
this net
movie net.
at... What time is it? It is 10:30 local time. We will be starting the Afterglow in about 5 minutes. I hope you all had a wonderful evening and enjoy discovering the universe. Thank you very much. This is in the 5F closing Skynet and returning repeater to normal amateur use.
N5 Bravo, N5 MTV.
Yes, this is N5BB.
November 5 Bravo, N5 MTV. You want to go to 14696 or 146 or the Irving repeater? Over.
I cannot do either one. I'm participating in the Afterglow net, which is getting ready to start on this repeater. If you want to learn more about the DFW traffic net, go to their website, and you'll find out all kinds of information. When I have time, I'll send you an email reply, but I don't have time to talk now, and I'm going to be at a meeting tomorrow, so it'll have to be some other time. Sorry. N5BB clear.
No problem. I'll check you later then. N5 MTV clear.
Okay, for those survivors who are still here, it is time for the Afterglow Movie Net. This is the movie net about movies, usually not so good movies, sometimes very good movies, but tonight is the not so good movie. Tonight it's called Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster. There's neither Frankenstein nor Dr. Frankenstein nor the monster. I guess that's Frankenstein with you, Dr. Frankenstein, nor a monster named Frankenstein. However, this fine film from 1966 has had a theatrical release, double feature with Curse of the Voodoo. And as a lucky ticket holder, you got free eye protection. That's right, glasses that you could wear to prevent yourself from an alien abduction. Gosh, if we'd known that, we wouldn't have all these UFO files and close encounters of the first, second, third kind, I guess. At any rate, here it is, Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster, sometimes stylized as Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster, no space in it, so it's Space Monster is one word. It's a 65 science fiction film directed by Robert Gaffney and starring Marilyn Harold, James Karen, and Luke Cuttell. Now, Luke Cuttell, of all people, had a very prosperous career as a character actor in Hollywood, both on television and in movies. So if you watch this film, it was the bald guy with the pointed ears, and you said, I recognized him from somewhere. That's because he was in a lot of stuff, mainly in the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s. The movie was filmed in Florida and Puerto Rico in 1964. The film tells the story of a facially damaged android robot who fights alien invaders from Mars. Despite the title, neither Dr. Frankenstein nor Frankenstein's monster appears in the film. However, the android is partially built from human pieces and is often called by the first name, Frank. If you missed the plot somehow, which is pretty easy to do, here is what it is. Such as it is, all the women on the planet Mars have died in an atomic war, except for the Martian princess Marcusin. That's played by Marilyn Harold. Marcusin, evidently unwilling or unable to conceive, and her right-hand man, Dr. Nadar, that's really his name, Nader, Luke Cuttell, decides they will travel to Earth and steal all the women on the planet in order to continue the Martian race. The Martians shoot down a space capsule carrying an android astronaut, Colonel Frank Saunders, played by Robert Riley, causing it to crash land in Puerto Rico. How convenient. Frank's electronic brain, complete with vacuum tubes, and the left hand of his face are damaged after encountering a trigger-happy Martian and his ray gun. That sounds like a whole new movie right there. Frank, now the Frankenstein of the title, described by his creator as an astro robot without a control system, proceeds to terrorize the island. The android and radiation-scarred mutant named Mo, part of the invasion force, battle each other, and both are destroyed, in case you missed the ending, which I did because I fell asleep in boredom. The film was released in the United Kingdom as Duel the Space Monsters, also known as Frankenstein Meets the Spacemen, Mars Attacks Puerto Rico, Mars Invades Puerto Rico, and Operation San Juan. I guess it was on the run and had to have all these aliases. It was released in the U.S. by Futurama Entertainment Corp. And was initially presented as part of a double feature with Curse of the Voodoo. It was released on DVD by DARC Films in 2006. This movie is ranked number 7 in the 2004 DVD documentary, The 50 Worst Movies Ever Made. Let's see. In popular culture, it says March 4th, 1974, on his WOR radio show, humorist Jane Shepard told the story about an old Army buddy making this film. That's all I know. I think there's a link to that story, but I'm sure as hell not going to read it to you. Okay, with that, what's this net about? Well, what we do is we find a movie, we watch the movie, we talk about the movie here on the air. And in the process of doing it on the air, we have it divided in 3 sections. We take check-ins first, then followed by discussion. The discussion includes these sections. First one is the plot. What did you think about it? For the first round. Second round is what about the acting and characterization. And then the third round is everything else, usually special effects, music, sound, picture quality, and anything we may have missed on the first two rounds. So there you have it. Those are the games. I will now take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie? And if you're listening for the first time and you didn't see the movie, that's okay. We'll ask you questions anyhow. Don't be shy. It's actually a lot of fun. So here we go. Please come with your call sign, name, and did you see tonight's movie? Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster from 1965.
This is N5BD, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Yes, unfortunately, I saw this movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. I have seen this movie twice and the ending 4 times now. Still can't remember the ending. NT5TM.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yeah, the ending of this is unrememberable. I think because it's just so abrupt. NV5F.
This is Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato. Yes, I saw this so-called movie. I think I've seen it 3 or 4 times. Sorry I missed last week's movie because it was so much better than this one. W5PLT.
Well, we have a few of the usual suspects. Let me check them in. I've got N5PB, Bill in Irving. Yes, he saw the film. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yes, he's seen this movie twice, maybe 3 times, and the ending 4 times. Yay. NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, she saw the film. W5BLT, Bill reluctantly says yes, he saw the film. Any additional check-ins, please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
Okay, we picked up KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the film. Anyone over on Echolink or All-Star Link? If you'd like to join, please come now. Okay, well, I guess we've got a quorum. So let's go ahead and start with Bill, N5BB. Bill, your thoughts on the plot for our fine film this evening from KE5 ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Plot. It's just silly. I should stop there, but I guess I'll continue. If you haven't seen the movie, or if you weren't watching carefully, the plot is that the there was an atomic war or some other severe war on Mars, and essentially all the women died, I guess, except for Princess, what's her name? Princess Markazan. And for some reason they do not explain, she can't conceive, I guess, or something, or she doesn't want to, or maybe she's not really female. She looks like she's female. Anyway, so they proceed to get in their spacecraft and come down to Earth, and their plan, which has several different stages, by the way, the phases, I should say. Their plan is to first do surveillance on the Earth to figure out where the women are and where they could capture them most easily. And then phase 2 is actually capture the women, some women. And then phase 2, I guess, is for the men on the spacecraft to impregnate them and create little Martian babies, I guess. I don't know. We're not sure where they're going to go, whether they're going to live on Earth or live on Mars. It's not clear. A lot of things are not clear in this film. And they have ray guns, and they have the ability to blow up rockets. So their spacecraft can make one of our rockets blow up. And they're scared of atomic weapons. They know we have them, and they're scared of them. For some reason, well, we don't see the ears and most of the head of the princess. She's in this big fancy get-up with a headdress on kind of thing, and so we can't see her ears. But all the men, all the males, the Martian males in this movie have ears that slightly look like Dr. Spock. So they have these kind of elongated, odd ears, and very bad makeup. I mean, very, very bad, pasty makeup that looks like it was put on by a fifth grader. Oh, no, excuse me. Somebody in maybe the first grade or second grade playing around with makeup. That's what it looks like to me, at least. And so, what about the plot? Well, it makes no sense. And also, there's this confusion in the plot about the atmosphere. She wants them to wear their helmets when they the men when they try to come in and do things on the Earth. But it also appears that humans can breathe their atmosphere, and they don't really have an airlock. People just walk in and out of their spacecraft. So it's not, the atmosphere isn't clear on this. It's whatever. It's no description for why they look, other than this little weird thing with their ears, why they look identical to humans. No explanation for how they could possibly breed with humans, and why these Martians could think they could breed with humans without actually having done a test, as far as we know. So there are holes, very large holes, the size of very large craters. That's the size of the holes in this plot. And since there seems to be some confusion, I'll clear it up. The end of the movie, which happens pretty fast, is the aliens are trying to get away, but Frank, the android, is in there, and he's got one of their ray guns, and he shoots the heck out of the control room, and it appears, although they don't show too much detail, that the alien spacecraft explodes, killing everybody in it. At least that's what it looks like. So that's the end of the movie. So what do we see in this movie, the plot? We see early to mid-60s U.S. rockets. Well, not really special effects. I think it's a Saturn I, not a Saturn 1D, but the early Saturn I rocket is what it looks like to me, the one they take pictures of, they show taking off. You see humans trying to go to Mars, which sounds rather strange. Number one, Saturn I rocket couldn't get them out of Earth orbit, and there's no second stage that could do that. And if they got to Mars, they don't have a lander or any way to get back. So that whole part of the plot isn't explained well and is rather stupid. But they were going to Mars. Coincidentally, evidently, it's not clear whether the aliens, the Martians, came here because they saw we were going to Mars, because they thought these rockets we were sending up were they didn't realize they were space rockets. They thought they were missiles. So the plot is all very confused about the humans were actually going to Mars, that the aliens from Mars thought that they weren't actually sending up spacecraft, that they were just sending up, regular rockets with bombs on them and things. Again, the plot wasn't very well thought out. What do we have in this? We have plot items. We have Air Force. We have airplanes. We have Army troops. We have ray guns. We have airplanes. Humans with airplanes that are trying to hit the Martian spacecraft. And by the way, they're bad shots, and they can't attack it. We see everything going to Puerto Rico, which is where the Martian spacecraft came down, and also where the capsule that was essentially shot down by the Martians came down. The Martians are then trying to find whoever was in the capsule because they don't want them to release the information that the Martians are here. Are you confused? Well, that's okay. It's not a very clear movie. So, plot. There is a plot. It's convoluted. It doesn't make sense. It's got holes in it. But there actually is a plot, which is better than some of the movies we've seen. But it's a bad plot. That's all I got for now in 5BB. Oh, there's Bikini Babes, by the way. That's the main reason they made this movie. It's like the Beach Blanket Bingo and some of those similar movies. It's got Bikini Babes in the movie. That is why they made it. Back to you, Tom, in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill, and thank you for the detailed plot description, I think. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. Now that you've gotten the complete plot details, what do you think about the plot and the details from KE5I6?
Nothing good. No good thoughts. I mean, I have good thoughts about you and all sorts of other amateur radio operators, but not about this movie. I really enjoyed the conversation in the Facebook chat group last night, much more than I did the movie. I like that several of us seemed to feel that this movie was stitched together out of several different movies that didn't have much in common. Is this a movie about a woman in love with a dysfunctional robot? A dysfunctional, and let me stress, cheaply made robot without any good prop parts. Is this a student project to use as much stock footage as possible? Is this a violent movie in which F-100s, I think, fire lots and lots of unguided rockets at a geodesic temp that they can't seem to damage? Yeah, as Bill hinted at, well, he said, is this a movie about good-looking people on the beaches of Puerto Rico? Well, then we should have just hired David Hasselhoff and dispensed a load of stock footage. It was a lot of just weird, random stuff jumbled together all at once, and an awful lot of stock footage. I could certainly follow it. Did I care? No, I'm glad it was short. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. I think you pretty much hit it on the head. Okay, next up, Virginia, NV5F. Your chance to tell us about the plot. Go right ahead.
Well, I don't know if it was mashed up from several different movies or even two different movies, but the plot for this was definitely not sure what it wanted to be. I think they had almost two movies going at one time for a while. The Franken astronaut robot guy and the girl who was kind of found him endearing, and then sending him to space, and he kind of has a little bit of a run-in with the Martians who are coming to Earth, and but then the plot that it doesn't come together again until later in the movie. He crashes, they land. There's somehow, they got to get to Puerto Rico to get all the plot to kind of come together, and in the midst of that, there's things that seem like it's 1 minute it's horror because he's damaged and he's out wandering around and he looks like Frankenstein, and of course they have to do a whole, thing where they talk about that he's like Frankenstein so that they can call this Frankenstein meets the space monster. And then they have to show in the other movie the aliens who are looking for bikini chicks to breed Martians. They have to show that they have a space monster in their ship. I guess it's used for disciplinary, it's used to threaten people, and I don't know. They got this crazy-looking space monster. So that somehow these two plots are going to somehow come back together, and Frankenstein is going to meet the space monster, and of course it takes forever to get there, and there's, beach blanket bingo dance parties, and the aliens invade them and steal all the bikini chicks from them, and then there's a bunch of stuff that's stock footage, and it looks like the beginning of it almost feels like it's going to be some kind of space documentary kind of thing, like where they're trying to do almost like a realistic thing about the current space program, but a fiction that has, aliens. And then you've got this love story and this kind of the sad Frankenstein, like he's out there wandering around and misunderstood, but then as soon as his friends find him, he's fine. It's like they snap him back to he's a nice guy again. And then, he is kind of tragic and strangely endearing, and he does meet the space monster at the end, and he saves everybody, and he sacrifices himself because the Martians launch, and he does something to help blow up their ship before they can, get away. But of course, he rescues all the girls first, and there's definitely the skin aspect of this and the weird monster scaring pretty women, you know, like, it's a weird mix of, like, tragic and really superficial, and it finally comes together and ends very abruptly, which I don't know if they ran out of money or ran out of script pages or lost the end of the film, but it was suddenly over, which is common for movies back then. So the plot was oddly convoluted and disjointed, but you kind of knew what was going to happen, so it was like super predictable because it had all these tropey things in it. There's some other stuff about it I thought was really interesting that I'll talk about later, but the movie overall. But yeah, the plot was predictable and had lots of different facets to it that didn't quite, you know, it's like they had to switch between things a lot, and it felt very disjointed, but even though you kind of knew where it was going to go. So, you know, it was a typical thing, but it did have some weird, like, it had an odd spread of things all the way from realistic, like astronaut, or attempting to seem realistic, all the way to campy, like it looks like a Saturday afternoon serial kind of thing. You know, it's like they couldn't decide if they wanted to have a serious space plot or a serious tragedy plot or a horror plot or a kooky beach blanket movie plot or a ugly aliens, you know, exploiting hot chicks plot. So it was about 5 or 6 different flavors all mixed together, and it made kind of a weird mash. Back to net, NV.
All right, thank you, Virginia. I think you were done. I got a voice announcement right as I think you were signing, but I think you're done. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, your thoughts on the plot for tonight's movie, Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster.
Well, okay. First, I'll apologize for missing last week. I love last week's movie. Unfortunately, I had non-24 sleep disorder kicking in, and I was up for about 40 hours and just couldn't stay awake last Saturday. But all that being said, yeah, the plot for this, it could have gone so much better. I couldn't figure out how the atomic war they had killed all the women, but the one princess, and it didn't kill the men. It wasn't clear if it was just the men on the ship that were alive. I think maybe that was the case. They said that they won the war, but needed to, you know, basically figure out a way to carry on the Martian race. So it's just kind of weird. There's lots of holes in this plot. I think the AI descriptions I was getting were either being programmed by my mom or somehow she must have gotten to them, because I didn't get any descriptions of the women in bikinis there. So my mom would have edited that out if she was describing this movie, and apparently AI did too. So anyway, yeah, this seems so thrown together, and I don't know that it was ever meant to be taken seriously. I don't know how the writers and producers could have taken this seriously. Every time that I've watched this, I forget the title, and I think it's going to be some Abbott and Costello movie with Frankenstein Meets a Space Monster, and then I'm disappointed that it's not a Abbott and Costello or, you know, Bob Hope space movie. Oh well, that's really all I got. The plot stunk. W5BLT. Back to you, Tom.
thank you, Bill. I sense a lack of enthusiasm on this fine film. Well, let's see. To pick up the pace and make us excited again, I'm happy that motion pictures exist like this one, is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, lift our spirits. Tell us what we're missing from our fine film, Frankenstein Meets the Space Monster, from 1966, I think.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I don't know if I have anything super positive, but yeah, this movie kind of felt like it was written by a fan of the old 50s horror space kind of stuff, but they wanted to put it to, somehow they knew the future of 70s music, and, and then they were obviously big fans of girls in polka dotted bikinis, and they needed an excuse to make a movie, and that's kind of what this felt like. Or it felt like the movies were starting to see today on streaming, where they're just pumping out nonsense just to make a buck, and that's kind of what this felt like. I guess on a positive, maybe in a way they could be potentially predicting somewhat of our future. They have made it very clear that probably if we were ever going to explore deep space, we would probably have to do it with automation and computers, and it actually wouldn't be humans. So maybe they were ahead of their time thinking that robots would be going up into space instead of us. So there you go. That's the positive of this movie. Yes, they kind of sort of explained, the whole why there wasn't any women or actually even any men left. They said at one point during the movie there that the people on that spaceship were the only people left from Mars, period. Everybody was killed on the planet, even though they were still claiming victory. So yeah, very strange. Yes, this movie was thrown together, it seems like, with a third of it being just clearly stock footage and just two ideas that they tried to kind of pull together to sort of make a plot, which has already been explained by the crew, so I won't go over that again. A couple of points I found odd. One of them was, we had the scientist and the other scientist lady that created this robot, but yet there seemed to be some kind of tension between her and the other scientist. We get a 10-minute scene of them riding around on a Vespa in the city, listening to music about lovers, even though they never really kind of insinuated that they were, but then you kind of get the impression maybe they were, but yet she also apparently had a thing for the robot. So, okay. Not really sure the point of that. It definitely felt like a lot of filler. Yes, obviously apparently the the fighters, airplanes were clearly manned by stormtroopers, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a rocket that made little tiny explosions like you had in the 80s, not like real rockets. So, yeah. Then we had our spaceship that was clearly way bigger on the inside. Initially they bring in like those 8 women, but then you just keep seeing woman after woman being loaded into this little tiny ship, and then ran down a conveyor belt. So I don't know if this conveyor belt was supposed to be shrinking them and storing them, or maybe digitizing them into a computer where they would bring them back out eventually. I don't know. But what makes me kind of think they were fans of old movies from the 50s, cheesy rockets, and we had to have the monster, of course, a cliche that we see time and time again. But, yeah, not a great plot, but, yeah, I guess as pointed out earlier, I guess it had a plot, so it's better than a few things we've seen. So that's maybe why it ranks 7th worst and not the worst. Anyway, that's all I got. Back to that KB9SOK.
Well, thank you, Sean. See, now you had that peppy, upbeat whole description, and then, and then you slashed it and put it out of its misery. But you got the discussion up and lively, and you acted as though you actually sort of enjoyed the movie and said, we've seen worse. And that's the attitude to have. The glass was half full of something. So there you have it. All right. Before I give my comments, does anyone else want to check in? Please come now with your call sign name. Did you see tonight's movie, Frankenstein Meets the Space Monsters from 1966? Okay, I hear nothing. Okay, this is what I want to talk about. Everybody gave me the description of the movie and and their feelings on it. But here's the thing. I looked up, there's 2 hot links in here for written by. 2 of the 3 people are listed in here, R.H.W. Dillard and George Garrett. Let me tell you about both these people because I think you'll find it interesting. They're both writers. Dillard was a poet, highly regarded writer of fiction and critical essays, as well as the screenwriter to a cult classic We're Watching. Received Bachelor of Arts from Roanoke College, went on to receive a Master of Arts and a Ph.D. from the University of Virginia. He was both a Woodrow Wilson and DuPont Fellow, considered something of an institution in Holland's University, where he'd been teaching creative writing. He'd done a film journal as vice president of Film Journal in 1973 to 1980. He's won numerous awards, Academy of American Poets, a Poetry Prize, as he's like poets, and Dillard Award. Ex-wife is one, and he has a bibliography of about a dozen different books that he's written. That's that guy, R.H.W. Dillard. Now this is the other guy, George Garrett. He also is a poet. Died in 2008. This guy is written some major stuff along the way. He's gotten the Guggenheim Fellowship, an American Academy Award, Public Library Literary Lion Award, Ford Grant, National Endowments of the Art Grant, Shawnee Research Fellowship, some other stuff. He's got a bunch of novels in here. Death of Fox is one that he's known for, short stories, plays, poetry, on and on it goes. This guy is a graduate of it was Princeton. Where is it? Let me find it. At any rate, both these guys are academics and wrote this thing. It's hard to believe. Yeah, here he is. He earned his Bachelor's of Arts from Princeton University and attended Columbia University, received his Master's of Arts and PhD from Princeton. This guy is no lightweight, and he is credited with the cult classic we're talking about now. He's also known for the Elizabethan trilogy, Death of a Fox, Secession, and Entered from the Sun, which is considered a classic book series. So, I don't know how they ended up writing this thing. I don't know. Maybe they owed money to the mob, and they had to do them a favor or something so they could move $60,000 on the budget for this film to elicit funds. I don't know. Who knows? But I thought that was kind of interesting, how you can come up with something like this, which is certainly held on kind of the H.G. Wells story about invasion from Mars, although just bare bones parts of it, of course. I guess maybe this film was written based around, the stock footage they had, perhaps. But then why do you need these guys? Did they have some piece of the action in this? There's a backstory to this movie that needs to be explained. 2 poets, distinguished poets, no less, actor who ended up in everything, went on to do lots and lots of television and movies after this, who could tell, but we'll talk about him in the next round. So I don't know, there's something going on here that we don't know about. I'd really like to know the backstory. Okay, those were my comments. We'll go ahead and go back to the top, and we'll talk about the characterization, such as it is, starting with Bill, N5BB. What you got, Bill?
Oh, groan. This is N5BD. Thank you, Tom. Okay, let's talk about the characters. We have Princess Markazan, Marilyn Hanold. By the way, she was a showgirl in Hollywood. That's how she was discovered. She was on the front page of some photo magazines, and she was the June 1959 Playmate of the Month. So that's the princess. So she's the one trying, everybody is following all of her directions completely. She could tell them to stand on their heads and jump outside, and they would do it, I think. And she's going to get some women, some females that are human, so that she can get them impregnated by, I guess, the men on the ship or the men back on Mars. I think it must be the men on the ship, because I think everybody on Mars is dead. But when she does this, it's a little strange. So the females come in, and the princess carefully checks out the females. She asks them to turn around. You know, many of them are wearing bikinis. She has them turn around. She eyes them. So she gives them a very careful once-over to make sure they're good enough material for the new hybrid people that are going to be, I guess, half Martian, half human. Whatever. This makes no sense. But that's what it is. So that's kind of goofy. I mean, she's literally kind of like a beauty pageant checking them out. And then they have to be purified. What? They went through it. So they lay them down on this kind of conveyor belt thing. They put a little thin sheet over these women, these young ladies, these girls, and then they go into the purification, the electronic purification machine. It doesn't appear to hurt them because we see them later, but my guess is it's just making sure it gets rid of all the bacteria or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, a goofy, character that's the head of the Martians, really goofy. Then you've got her sidekick, Dr. Nader, of all names. And he is just Mr. Goofball. Why is he Mr. Goofball? He's grinning, especially when she says, kill them or do something else bad to humans. And he's like licking his lips and grinning and smiling and saying, oh, yes. So he seems like a sadist. He wants to do things that are bad to people. He's really happy when he puts the woman scientist Karen Grant, played by Nancy Marshall, when he puts her in the cage next to the mole monster. He's like so happy to be able to treat her to that nastiness. So I didn't understand that part of the characterization. It wasn't required for the plot. It was simply required for this is a stoopy, beach blanket bingo, evil people trying to hurt humans kind of thing. It's a stupid plot. Anyway, that's the characterization of Dr. Nader. You have Karen Grant, I mentioned, played by Nancy Marshall. She evidently played in one other TV or movie, and that was it. And it was before this. But she is, I think she was a very likable character. Her was trying to be I don't think they were exactly boyfriend and girlfriend, but she was trying to become the girlfriend, I think, of Adam Still, who was played by Jim Caron. And so, at the end of the movie, they embrace and everything, and they ride around on the Vespa, motorcycle, and things. So they're kind of becoming a couple. But I think Karen is sympathetic. She's trying to do the right thing. And she cares about the android character. I don't think she loves him. I just think she cares about him. And she's afraid that everybody else will just forget him and blow him up and everything. And she kind of cares about him. So she's a caring person. Who else do we have? General Bauer, the general, who's, giving orders and finally going down to Puerto Rico and everything. And he plays that kind of position just like all the other military people in all these movies from the 50s and 60s. It's like there's one person in charge, and he's military. He doesn't know a lot about the science stuff, but he's going to do all the right military things to protect all the humans and get all the troops in position and everything, so he does his job correctly. And then we have Robert Riley, the actor who played Colonel Frank Saunders. So his name should have been Frank Stein, since they refer to him as Frankenstein. But no, it's got the same initials, Frank S., but he's Frank Saunders. I guess it's a made-up name because he's not a human. It appears that he's made up of human parts they've gotten from somewhere. Dead people? I don't know. And they put these together, but under his hair, in the brain case, there's a little computer with vacuum tubes and transistors and things. The components are rather large, and they couldn't put enough smarts in that to run a coffee maker. But nope, that's his whole little control system. And there's some external controllers, which both Karen and Adam, the two kind of scientist people, they have these external controllers that can somehow control the android. So the android is kind of likable because things happen to him out of his control, and he just tries to do what he's supposed to. The only thing that's not likable is when he kills the guy on the road for no reason. I didn't understand that at all. The guy in the car. Anyway, he loses his mind after the rocket blows up, and he crash lands and gets zapped by the alien ray gun. But he does the right thing in the end. He follows the directions, and he saves the world from the Martians. So he kind of does bad things, but it's just because he's merely an android. He's not really human, and he's lost his control system. So I don't know. There's the characters, such as they are. There's also the miscellaneous other Martian male astronauts. One weird part of the movie is when they're going to land. And so what happens is you have the princess and Dr. Nader are sitting there in some seats, and they are with no helmets on, no spacesuits. But they've got all the other Martian males, the four of them in there, they've got helmets on, spacesuits. So why do they have to wear helmets where the princess and Dr. Nader don't wear helmets? There's no explanation for that, just like most of the rest of the movie. I guess that's all I can say about characterization. It's kind of silly. Yes, you can identify the different characters. You can separate them. Yes, they have characterization. In other words, they do what they're supposed to be doing. But it's still not written very well. Back to the net, N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Next up is Tony, NT5TM from KE5ICX.
Good evening, Tom. I really think Virginia did a much better job than I did on the last round with explaining the disjointedness of the plot. And I'm sure that Bill and she will do a better job this round, too. They clearly thought more about this movie than I did. Oh, hi, Ferdinand. There's a bird here who doesn't want to go to bed. He's staying up too late. The only suspense I felt in this entire movie came from an unnamed character. Yes, the woman in the polka dot bikini. I wanted to know what year the song Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny so forth came out. 5 years before this. And without any production photographs, they were probably not preserved. We'll never know what color those polka dots really were. I also really think that people have neglected the great extent of the work done by all the soldiers who were constantly getting in and out of helicopters, getting in and out of jeeps, getting in and out of trucks, occasionally setting up mortars or walking in various directions. Without them, the movie would have been half as long and would have made about the same amount of sense. So all these anonymous people who are constantly getting in and out of things are underappreciated characters. That's a sly way of saying, oh my goodness, what stock footage. Not that sly. So yeah, as Bill said, I could tell them apart. I just didn't care. And that's all I got. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Next up is Virginia, NV5F, characterization and acting. It's all yours.
Well, thank you, Tom. First, I have to give Bill a lot of credit on his thoroughness and care with which he did describe the characters and the actors. The acting is almost as disjointed as the plot in that you have this kind of endearment that this lady has towards this robo-astronaut Frankenstein guy, and her little sort of kind of burgeoning romance with the other scientists, but I think she's a little torn. I think she really does kind of have a very soft spot for Frank. And I did notice that there is another famous Frank who's an astronaut in a very cool movie that I usually find a way to reference. And so I'm wondering if Stanley Kubrick stole Frank's name from this movie, because he watched every science fiction movie ever made while he was researching for 2001. So maybe this guy was an inspiration for Frank Poole. Anyway, there you had the typical, like, cheesy acting, ladies dancing in bikinis and screaming, lots of screaming. The screaming was very convincing. You had the cheesy aliens that looked like they were straight from, like, a, like Rocket Man cereal or something, and their acting was cheesy and over the top and melodramatic. And, all the Martians that were in spacesuits that were running around, abducting people, their acting was great because you couldn't even see their faces. They were just, doing their thing and plundering and doing all the stuff that, those kind of guys do. And the bikini ladies did what they were supposed to do, and all the people at the party, they were great. And I thought the gal who, played the the scientist who loved Frank, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry. I thought she did okay. I mean, she did convince me that she really did have a soft side for this, guy who seemed to be, I mean, the whole tragic Frankenstein thing, I thought he did pretty well with that, because I actually felt for him. I kind of didn't want him to have to sacrifice himself. I thought he was kind of sympathetic to me. Let's see, what else? I did notice that the typical thing, the smart scientist lady, although she was lovely, she was also brunette, and then all the bikini ladies, most of them were blonde. That's kind of a typical thing they did back then. They did a really good job being really pretty and attractive and screaming a lot. Their acting was really good there. Like I said, the aliens were good at being scary, and Frank was really good at being scary when he was kind of in shock and he was just rampaging around the countryside, scaring people, and being the horror movie section of this where he was like going on a kind of a horror spree, and then he was suddenly very sympathetic as soon as he was back with his friends. He was very good at switching modes, and adapting quickly to his role as it changed. And the Pee Wee Herman looking guy with the bald head and the giant ears was very convincing at being a egomaniac, and the sardonic Martian lady who I guess for some reason was going to run the harem of Martian concubines from Earth, her way of like checking them out to make sure they were good enough. She was really good at that, convincingly terrible, and I didn't mind it that she and her whole spaceship and all the bad guys on it got blown up, and it felt really sad for Frank because I think he did pretty good. So everybody did okay doing what they were doing in a movie that was disjointed and had a cheesy plot and was to get people into the theater and make some money. There was some into this movie that I will discuss in round 3. Back to net NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Thank you for your insight into our characters. There's pulled out more than I thought was there, which I think is great. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Same question to you about characterization.
Well, I'm truly fascinated that on a net like this we can pull out all this for a movie. I'm speechless. I did like I think that was the Nader character. Every time he would be given an order to blow something up, he just had this laugh, and for some reason it made me laugh every time, because it was just so corny. And I kept thinking of the Austin Power movies where they over-exaggerated the laughter of the bad guys, and that was probably the one thing I looked forward to, is just hearing that guy laugh. I don't think that I really have anything on the characters. Everybody pretty much covered it, and honestly pulled out more than I got from this with the characters. And I don't think I have anything for round 3, but I'm always fascinated with all the gaps that are filled in. So appreciate that. W5BLT. Back to you, Tom.
Thank Bill. Okay, well, okay, you checked your pockets and they were kind of a little empty on this round. That's okay. Sean will pick up the pieces. He will take and pull everything forward because we can count on Sean because he's upbeat and innovative and introspective and all those inner words. So, KB9SOK, Sean, amaze us.
Yeah, this KB9SOK. Boy, Tom, you played it up way too much. I don't actually have a whole lot to say that's not already been said. Yes, the characters were distinguishable. Yep. Yeah, I agree with Virginia. I think the girl scientist, I think her name was Karen, because I remember thinking, oh boy, Karen. but I do think she probably was the strongest next to our android Frank, which was probably right up there, because, why not? And at least Karen did have some emotion throughout the movie. The rest were just almost laughable. Yes, I do agree, the sidekick of the princess was almost laughable. It did feel, I agree, it feels like an Austin Powers kind of villain. That smirk and the laugh and the, it was like, I don't know why they decided that needed to be in this movie, but it was almost laughable. I'm sure they've surely had to done a Mystery Science 3000 theater of this film. They've had to, because they would have had a field day with all that. Yeah, our Army people were classic Army. Yeah, I just don't really have much to say else about these characters. There was really nobody that really stood out other than maybe Karen and the robot. Those were, I agree, probably the only two characters I kind of cared about in this film. The rest, I was okay with them dying. So, it was just a kind of a strange movie. Yeah, I don't have much on that. Sorry, Tom. Sorry to let you down on this one. And also, too, I'd like to, I felt bad last week, Tom. Just you and Bill. I really did want to speak, but I had a toothache from hell, and I was in a lot of pain, but I felt so bad for you guys. You guys did a great job. Anyway, back to that. KB9SOK.
All right, Sean, thank you. But you know what you could have done, quite simply, is you could have watched the movie and discussed the movie, and that would have been so annoying that your toothache would have gone away. We would have been able to help you therapeutically. That's what I think, because that's what I think. Okay, anybody else want to join us? Probably the answer is no. It's getting late at night, but if you'd like to join us, please come to your call sign now. It's the other side of my brain, I guess. So a couple of things I wanted to mention. First off, according to AI, this was supposed to be a comedy, but the people that were distributing the movie, backing it, said, no, you're going to have to make it serious, so it was unintended. The three guys that wrote it are all buddies that all were at the University of Virginia. Virginia, that was R.H.W. Dillard, Garrett, and Rodenbeck, so they were all academic types. Now, the actors, this is kind of fun. Let me see here. It says here let me get down to where am I at here? Here we are. Down here it says, despite the movie's incredibly small budget, the main cast, it was $60K, by the way, Frankenstein meets Space Monster featured a unique mix of established 1950s models, theater actors, and young talent that went on to highly successful Hollywood. James Karen as Dr. Adam Steele. He was the lead scientist and constructs the cyborg with the malfunctioning brain. Most successful and recognizable in the entire cast, he was one that I like, Bruce Glover. He was Mull, the space monster, and a Martian crew member. I think this is the guy with the hat, with the helmet off. He did double duty and was uncredited, playing both a generic background grunt, Martian grunt, and a radiation-scarred space monster. The production ran out of money, probably at the very end of filming. That's probably why the ending was so abrupt. They couldn't afford to pay Glover to return for pickup shots, stuff that would help with continuity on the film. Crew members Joe King had to step in as the monster suit, to finish the final spaceship scene. He went on to fame as an eccentric assassin, Mr. Wint, which I remember quite distinctly. He was one of the two guys in that film that were quite strange in that. You would remember them. They look like they might have been a couple. In Diamonds Are Forever Assassins. So you may remember him there. And then Luke Cottell as Dr. Nader. Yes, that guy. He was highly prominent character over the next 5 decades. Dozens of television dramas, playing the proctologist, Dr. Cooperman, in The Ass Man, in the classic episode of Seinfeld. And he was in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Finally, Robert Riley played Colonel Frank Saunders, or Frankenstein. He was, they mentioned here that he's the astronaut with the out-of-control homicidal cyborg in a spaceship, shot down by the Martians, of course. Close-up shot showing the interior mechanical workings of Riley's robot head. The prop department simply filled the inner gears of a standard wristwatch and a tuning face of a pocket transistor radio. I think it was more than that. I think the regular radio itself had that, or a regular radio that sat on a desk. I'm not so sure about the wristwatch part, but... And Luke Cottell went on to be rather well known later. On to do some pretty cool stuff in Hollywood. Okay, that's it for me on that round. We'll go to the third round. We have time. I'll try and go through. There's 6 of us. I think we can get through it. Effects or something you missed on the first 2 rounds? Go ahead.
Tom, you kind of broke up there. I don't know if you want me to talk or somebody else, or what you were saying there at the end. This is N5BB.
Bill, go ahead. Third round, anything you want. It can be special effects, music, technical, or something we missed on the first 2 rounds that you want to mention from KE5, IECX.
Okay, thanks. This is N5BB. There was music, and although it wasn't great, I don't think it was horrible. I listened to the songs. Some of them were some existing songs. Some of them were made just for this movie, and the band that performed them was like one-hit wonders or something, or not even one-hit wonders. I think they were formed mainly just to make the music for this movie. But it kind of suited it, and it didn't, to me, it didn't clash with what was going on. So I was okay with the music. I saw some reports that this was filmed in 3D. A lot of people saw it with 3D glasses. That wasn't obvious to me in the print I saw. It was just black and white, regular. But maybe there's 3D prints that were out there. As many other people said, the sets were very cheesy. So one thing I found very interesting is if you know about the TARDIS, Doctor Who, the TARDIS is well known for the inside being much larger than the outside. That's the same thing as the alien spacecraft here. Did you see, at some points you see quite a few alien spacemen. There's quite a few of them, and you see quite a few of the girls that get put in there, along with the people we already know about. And how do they all fit in there? If you look at it from the outside, it's not that large. And there must be some, fuel. They have actually rockets. There must be some fuel, and there must be computers and navigation equipment. And you look on the outside, no, it's not that big. So I think, I don't think they intended this, but I think that it was just due to their lack of money that they had all these people going into a very small spacecraft. It would be like everybody that checked into Skynet this evening was inside the Artemis capsule going around the moon. That's kind of the same ratio as the people that were squeezed into this spacecraft. It was a very cheesy-looking spacecraft on the outside. Just very bad version of the standard flying saucer thing. The ray guns were also very cheesy. I don't know if they were just toys or whether they actually made a special ray gun, but nothing fancy there. The costumes that the alien astronauts wore, they just wore some kind of helmet with a visor, and then their spacesuits weren't thick. They did look like regular pressurized spacesuits. They were just kind of some loose-fitting, I don't know, denim or cotton or something. It didn't really look like a spacesuit to me. And, of course, the people that would need to be protected the most, Dr. Nader and Princess Marcuson, they never wore helmets or spacesuits. Again, who knew? Let's see other production value things. The lighting was okay. We could see things through the movie. As was mentioned by Tony or somebody else, we saw all these things of people driving around. We saw them driving the Vespa around with music, which was okay. And that was filmed okay. That was, it was, you didn't get seasick watching it. It was okay. What other kind of production values things? The spacecraft itself inside had very cheap production values. I think things are made out of cardboard and plywood, not very good. And on the inside as well as the outside. And of course, the way they got away with such cheap production values is they had all this all this standard stock footage from NASA and from the Army and the Air Force. And so you saw the military transport plane, and that was a standard U.S. Air Force, the MATS, M-A-T-S, military, whatever transport system. Military, I can't remember what the second letter stands for, transport system. So that was standard planes, and they had various views of it, different things, because I'm sure they were able to get those from the military. And so they showed it taking off and landing and flying and everything like that. Of course, we didn't see them getting on and off the aircraft or anything like that because that would have required production values. All we saw was standard stock footage. And again, the standard footage of what I believe was the Saturn I. Not the Saturn 1B, but I think it was the original Saturn I. And so they had those standard stock footages of it. and no additional effort mentioned with special effects. They didn't show us Frank in his capsule, really. They didn't show the inside of the capsule, really. They didn't show him doing anything. All the control areas were very basic. They didn't show a nice big NASA control room or anything like that. They were just super basic. You know, some people in a room with a microphone. This is N5BB. I already mentioned I thought the makeup was really cheesy and cheap. Let's see, other production values. I think that's about it. I'm looking in my notes. I did take notes. And, production values. As mentioned by Tony or somebody, the party at the pool with all the young guys and gals was great. They were all doing their thing there with music and everything, and the aliens were able to get the women without a lot of fighting because they, of course, used the ray gun to, I think, kill somebody, and so there wasn't too much screaming there, but in other parts of the movie, the women screamed like crazy when they were attacked by these Martian spacemen. What else? Again, the damage to Frank's face, it did look like he had a vacuum tube in there and some individual transistors, capacitors, resistors. You know, that was actually very, very, very old. That was old technology for 1964 when this was filmed. They could have come up with something that looked like it was more modern than that, but they didn't. It looked like pretty standard, cheapo, late 50s, early 60s stuff. Oh, by the way, they had teletypes. One of the things in the military, blah, 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 blah. Code 24, send out code 24 to get them. And so they had teletypes printing. That's standard technology. So again, they didn't have to do much. They had to get some extras. They had to get the bikini babes, and they had to get the other swimsuit babes, and they had to get the guys at the party. But that's about all. So they spent just a tiny amount of money on extras for this, and they probably paid the actors very, very little. Okay, I think that's it. Again, it's a bad movie, but it was actually watchable. I'll put it that way. I didn't, get bored and leave in the middle of the movie. Although it wasn't very exciting, it was interesting enough to keep me watching to the end. That's what I say, and I'm sticking with that story. N5BB, back to the net.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I'll just add to the end of that you're not alone. A lot of people actually like this film. They know it's become a cult classic, and it is watchable. That's what most people say. It's just not very good, but it is entertaining. It is possible to do those two things at the same time. Okay, next up, Tony said he might be done. But I'll go ahead and see he might be out there. NT5TM, if you're out there, do you have any final comments from KE5I6?
Well, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Bill, for giving me too much credit. I don't think I actually said anything about that party, but that's okay. I found the makeup cheap, the stock footage annoying, and the music also quite annoying. So I mostly think the production values took away from this movie. I do have to check out now, though. Thank you, everybody. It's been more fun listening to you than it was to watch this movie. November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
All right, thank you, Tony. Thanks for your contributions this evening. We always appreciate it. Next up, Virginia, ND5, Happy Virginia, your final comments.
Well, I found the Frankenstein kind of horror makeup kind of effective. It may not have been as effective in color. A lot of times things that look good in black and white probably wouldn't look as good in color because they, the color might take away from the reality of them just by things like being unrealistic colors. That was gross and scary and a little disturbing. But the thing I noticed about this movie is that with all the stock footage and the weird, side of it that felt like it was trying to be sort of crisp and realistic versus some of the very weird, stupid, cheesy things, all that aside and those dissonances, there were moments in this where there was a weird kind of, dissonance set up with the music, and there were times when there would be, fun party music, and they would overlap some, ominous, kind of scary music, and that kind of clash of those two kinds of music would actually be, weirdly effective. And I think I even said in the chat on Friday night, I used the word Kubrickian. There were some things in it that were weren't disturbing because they were inherently shot well or edited well. But I do think there was some editing there that was pretty good despite some of the cheesiness. But there was some of the sound design on this was kind of interesting to me. I thought there was a strange, disturbing quality to some of the juxtaposition of sound with existing music, kind of needle drop tracks versus the score, and of course it had all the cheesy things like theremin music, all the tropey things you'd expect in a science fiction movie. But there were some moments in here where I was genuinely I think they're going for some kind of a disturbing feel here, and they're kind of getting it. But like I said, it's kind of a disjointed movie as far as the flavor it wanted to be and what it was trying to come off as. But the moments that felt like they were actually trying to go for something psychological, they were almost getting there. And I'm wondering what some of the filmmakers in this went on to do later on, because there was some weird merit in little spots in this that I was there's something here that looked like it seemed like it just felt like they were getting some kind of a mood or an atmosphere or a weird dissonant feeling that just kind of gives you that psychological unsettledness. It was never genuinely disturbing or unsettling because it was so cheesy. The space monster was kind of gross and scary, but also very cheesy. So you're just ugh, but at the same time it was just so cheesy and over the top. And then the other cheesy elements of the Martians kind of took away from even the grossness and scariness of the actual horror makeup effects, some of which weren't bad. So yeah, there was a mixed bag here. Everything from passable to almost good, and something that might have developed into a career in special effects or editing or sound design. I don't know. I'd have to do some research, but that'll be it for me tonight. Back to net in V5F.
Tom, before you close the net, there's one quick comment I want to throw in 5ED.
Depending on how you think about the film. 85, I see it.
Hey, Tom, I think your signal's kind of disappearing. There's one quick comment I want to throw in before we close. Can I make my quick comment in 5ED?
Okay, let me shoehorn Bill and Sean in here. Bill, W5DLT, your final comment.
Yeah, I got I got really nothing except that song stuck in my head, That's the Way It's Gotta Be, which was that 60s song. That's all I got. W5PLT.
Okay, Bill, no problem. Okay, last in, Sean, and then we'll go to Bill. But Sean, KB9SOK, your final comments.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, clearly this was a very low budget. The spaceship was kind of a little bit of a joke, and the makeup was interesting. What I'm wondering though is, looking at this movie, it looks like, I wonder if somebody's enhanced it, because it looked too good a quality to be made something from 1965. So I wonder if somebody's done an uplift on this to at least, HD, and I think that's maybe why some of the makeup stuck out so bad, because it was never intended to be seen that clear. So that was just one comment I was going to throw out there. Yeah, the spacesuits were laughable. Their ray guns were pretty huge and laughable. So yeah, special effects not particularly the best. And as far as the music, yeah, very odd. It was an interesting choice. We had the song around the Vespa, which is I'd call kind of normal music. Yeah, we had the kind of the 70s vibe throughout. And yes, your comment, Tom, about this was maybe intended to be a comedy, which kind of makes sense that they shifted. Maybe they're already halfway through filming this, which explains the over the top with a few of the parts, and other parts almost trying to be serious. So yeah. So yes, just will end with not the greatest plot, still better than Jetstream. So there you go. Enjoyed the conversation as always. And yeah, last night's conversation was very entertaining as well. So back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. And Bill, what do you got for us?
Okay, this is N5BB. Sorry, I forgot to say this earlier. There is one plot point that I don't think we've talked about. If we have, I apologize. But I found it very, very neat. It's strange, but it's the best plot thing in the whole movie if you think about it. And after I saw this part early in the movie, I thought it might be a much better movie until I saw the aliens. The plot point was Frank, the android, is presented as a little news conference. By the way, there's only 4 journalists there. Tiny news conference. Anyway, he's there, and he gets up on the podium, and they're asking him, "We haven't seen you in the astronaut corps before. Where have you been?" And he says, "Oh, I've been a test pilot. I've been kind of behind the scenes. I just don't, I've been around, but I've been trained on everything, all that kind of stuff." And they ask him some other question that's kind of a little bit more, and again, they're asking a question about himself personally. And he freezes up. When I say he freezes up, it's like his mouth is open and not moving, and his whole body is completely frozen. He just completely freezes. And it's very embarrassing, and the military people have to shoo the reporters out of the room real quickly before they figure out what happened. I thought that was a neat scene. The whole idea is you got an android there, and it kind of acted up because of the humidity. They were complaining about the humidity. It acted up because of the humidity, and it just froze in the middle of answering questions. I thought that was funny. And if the movie had contained that level of what I think was humor and everything, and continued along that line, it would have been much more interesting. But no, it monster and the queen from Mars. That's all I got in 5BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Thanks for your comments. And let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, my final comment had to do with all of the stock footage was fun. Yes, Bill mentioned twice about the Saturn 1, which I thought was pretty cool, and S4 stage or dummy stage, upper stage, and all that. That was pretty cool to see. Oh, the old aircraft, the MAX C-121, I think it was in it. A couple other things. No, it was the 135. I'm sorry, thinking of a different movie. I watched another movie that had a MAX aircraft that had the Constellation in it. I forget what it was now, but at any rate, it was there. Maybe it was last week's movie. Let's see, what else? Music. I didn't mind the music. I thought it was kind of fun. Some pop stuff in there that was quite good. And musically, it was all right. Suspense-wise, I thought it worked really well. The sound was interesting because there were whole swaths of exterior shots, obviously, at the Puerto Rico airport. There was no audio. All they did was play some music or something, and then, or normally they have some sort of voiceover. They didn't have voiceovers, which was a surprise to me. So they just played music over the top of it, and going through town or leaving the airport. No traffic noise, no background noise, none of that. It was just a silent movie time, which was kind of cheap. But they managed to pull it off fairly well. I don't think a lot of people actually noticed. It's possible. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and close it out. Let me see. I had a movie queued up here. I'm going to double-check this one to see if this is what we want to see. It's called Young Ones from 2014. It's an hour and 41 minutes. It's got a grim future. Water is scarce. It sounds like down here. We're almost out of water. I may have to come back to Dallas. So it's one of those stories from FilmRise, is listed as the contributor, and it's on Tubi. So I'll go ahead and post that tomorrow morning sometime after I wake up from a long slumber. Say 7-3 to everybody. Thank you for participating this evening, both on Skynet and, of course, the Afterglow Movie Net. We'll see you all next week. This is KE5 ICX, now clear.